Hey everyone, I'm Paul Slack with Vindy Digital, and I'm super excited for you to join us today. I do know there's a lot of ways you could spend the next hour of your life, and I certainly appreciate that you've chosen to spend it with us. What we're going to try to do today is really unlock the code on some of the biggest challenges that B2B marketers are facing in generating demand, traffic, pipeline, and revenue, and basically share with you some of the things that we're learning in our own marketing, but also by serving our portfolio of B2B clients that we absolutely love. Big shout out to all the Vindy Digital clients that are tuning in today. We certainly appreciate you very much, and we love you very much. As I was getting ready for the webcast today, one of the things that dawned on me is that throughout my career, I've literally sat in every seat that we're going to talk about today. I started off my career a long, long time ago, way more long ago than you want me to, that I even want to admit to. But I was a sales development rep, and so I know what it's like to call on C-levels that have no idea who I am, that have no idea why I'm calling them, or have no information about the company that I work for. So I've been there. But I've also been an account executive who thought that marketing was the make it pretty department, and their only job was to put logos on coffee mugs for trade shows. And I never thought they had anything to do with helping me make my number. But I've also run marketing, so I know what it's like to try to cut through the noise and generate demand, and how things work really well when the economy's hot and how things are much harder when the economy is soft, and what it takes to get a buyer from awareness to across the finish line to really help our company or the company that I work for achieve their goals. But finally, I'm the CEO of Vindy Digital, so I know what it's like to be a buyer or a decision maker or be in that C-suite. I know what it's like to kind of make a big decision for your company. I know what it's like to stay awake at night and worry about the decisions that you're making and the things that you purchase or bring into your organization, if they're going to help your business or hinder your business. And so I've really kind of run the full gamut, if you will, and I'm excited to just share with you insights and tips and examples of some of the things that we're learning to really help you have a successful 2023. Now, if we're going to do that, we've got to start with today's buyer. In 2023, B2B buyers are making purchase decisions differently. In fact, their preferences on where they consume information and how they consume information is changing dramatically. In fact, they're doing more and more on their own, and what that's doing is it's leaving our sellers or these sellers out of the selling process. In fact, what they want to do is go through as much of that buying process independently, and then not reach out to sales or reach out to you until they've kind of locked in on a solution, and they want to understand how to apply your specific solution to their needs and their specific situation. That's when they want to run out or engage with sales. And so as marketers, and as we're trying to figure out, how do we crack the code, it's really important for us to understand kind of what's going on with our buyers today. In fact, before COVID or back around 2020, maybe your buyers weren't logging into LinkedIn every day. Maybe they weren't listening to podcasts or attending live events like this one or joining peer communities online. But today they are, and that's influencing who makes it on their short list. And so if we're going to be successful in 2023, it's really important for us to kind of embrace this change, not resist the change, because that's where we're going to get a competitive advantage. And I don't know about you, but in this economy, I'll take every competitive advantage that I possibly can. And so there's a really interesting study to try to drive this point home I want to share with you that Harvard Business Review published towards the end of last year. I think it was Q4 of last year. And they went out to 1,000 B2B companies and spoke specifically to B2B buyers. And they basically were asking them, about their trends and preferences. And a couple of very interesting facts came out of that. The first one is that before they begin their buying process, they've already got a short list of vendors, about 4 or 5 vendors that they think might be the right vendor for them. And I just want to unpack that for you a little bit. Again, as the CEO of Vindy who makes purchase decisions, you're always kind of passively learning. As you go about your day, you see interesting things, you file those away. I may not be actively looking to buy something right now, but I'm kind of filing away in my mind, hey, this might be a good vendor to solve this issue. This might be a good vendor to solve that issue. And what this study is telling us is that by the time I get ready to make that decision, I've already got 4 or 5 companies that I'm thinking about. So that's point number one. The second point is even more fascinating to me, and that is that 90% of the time, 90%, they're going to buy from one of those 4 to 5 vendors that were on their short list. Which means that if we're going to be successful in 2023 and to really be successful with today's modern buyer, we've got to figure out how to get on that short list and not focus on just now buyers. In fact, if all of our marketing efforts are going after only now buyers, people that are in the market right now, what this study is telling us is that we literally have a 10% chance of winning that business. So if we're going to be successful, we really need to figure out how to get on that short list. Some of the reasons behind that are unpacked on this slide right here. And the fact is that many buyers today are digital natives. And what I mean by digital natives, they're millennials or younger. In fact, you can see there on the top that nearly 75% of decisions, or 75% of the decisions that are out there, there is a millennial or a digital native involved in that B2B decision. And the bottom half says that a third of the time, that millennial or digital native, if you will, is exclusively the final decision maker. And so we know that digital natives are using the internet differently and consuming information differently. And so that's some of the influence that's going on that's changing the way that buyers actually go and learn things. Now, before I get too far into it, I do want to introduce you to Andrea. Andrea, you probably already saw her on chat. She's helping me moderate today's event. So she'll be helping facilitate conversation. I would encourage you as we go through the material today, please chat with her, chat with one another. I would encourage and would love to see a lively conversation happening on the live chat. Now, I do have some time set aside at the end of the webcast to cover some questions. And so as I go through the material, if you have a specific question, please tee that up for Andrea, and then she'll tee that up for me at the end. Many of you guys sent me questions as I was getting ready for the presentation, so I appreciate that. And I do have some of those teed up already, but please, let's have a good, lively conversation with Andrea, with one another. By the way, it'd be great if you just went in right now and introduced yourself and let us know where you're dialing in from, if you will. Gosh, I just totally dated myself. I said dialing in. Logging in from, and maybe what you're having for lunch. That would be awesome. And then I'll circle back with you guys at the end of the presentation, and we'll cover some questions with you. Now, a couple of other things, just announcements I want to share with you. One is today I'm going to cover, ABM and demand generation at a macro level. In a way, it's going to be a fire hose. If you've attended any of our other events, you kind of know what to expect. But what I want to do is make sure that you have an opportunity to apply the information I'm going to share today specifically to your business. And so we've set aside some slots for you in order to do that and schedule a planning meeting with me. And if you want to do that, you simply just go to this landing page that we've set up at vendidigital.com/go. vendidigital.com/go. You'll see right there when you land on that page, there's a button, you click it, it'll take you right to my calendar. And I've set aside 10 appointments that we can have with companies that want to have a one-on-one session with me. Now, those appointments are for the week of May 22nd, because literally tomorrow I'm jumping on a plane and I'm going on vacation with my wife to St. Lucia. I can't wait. But that week that I get back, I've got 10 appointments set aside. If you want to have a planning meeting, would love to do that with you. These are absolutely complimentary, no strings attached. Would love to meet with you. Now, I will tell you, there's over 300 people that registered for today's event. So if you're wanting to do that, I'd probably jump on there pretty quick. For those of you that do go maybe a little bit later and those 10 appointments are taken, don't worry, we'll continue to work you in. It just may not be that week of May 22nd. But also, while I've got you on this particular page, if you'll scroll down to the second half of the page, I get this question every time we do one of these webcasts, and that is, can we have a copy of your slides? And the answer is absolutely yes. You can grab them on that same page, just vendidigital.com/go, and you'll see right there in the top left are the slides. You'll also notice there's several other resources that we've made available to you that we've kind of curated that we thought would be useful. I'll talk about those as we go throughout the presentation today. So hopefully you'll find those useful. So kind of getting back to the presentation, it's important for us to understand as we're trying to unpack, ABM and demand generation and how the modern buyer is changing, there's a fundamental truth that we just need to understand, and that is that we cannot control when a buyer is going to be ready to buy. That's something that is certainly out of our control. We can't take somebody that is not ready to buy your product or service and force them into your pipeline. That's just not going to happen. But what we can do is ensure that when they are ready to buy, they go from what we call a future buyer to a now buyer, that they think of your business first. And that's really what we're going to talk about today. And in order to do that, I want to change your mindset a little bit about what are we all trying to accomplish when it comes to engaging with a modern buyer. And it's not about generating pipeline. It's not about even generating appointments. Those are selfish. And yes, they're byproducts that we want to accomplish for our business. But our ultimate goal has to be answering the question, how do we become the go-to resource for our target customer? Let me say that again. How do we become the go-to resource for our target customer? When we are the go-to resource for our target customer, and that's our primary purpose, all the rest of the benefits that we're looking for are going to happen because of all the things that we've been talking about so far. So when we think about what's working now, number one, we need to think about how can we build trust and authority with future buyers. I mean, I'm telling you, that's where it's at. We've got to make it to that short list of vendors before they go in market. And so we need to think about what are ways that we can build trust with those future buyers. How can we transition our business to be more of a helper than a seller? You know, one thing I say on social media all the time is we need to be seen by our future buyers, if you will, or by our target audience as peers, not peddlers, right? We want to be helpful to our customers and not be seen as sellers. So what are the things that we can do? And we'll be talking about that certainly today to accomplish that. Number three, how do we create and distribute content that our buyers will actually want? You know, at the end of the day, we know that our buyers need information. That's a great opportunity for us. They have problems they don't know how to solve on their own, and so they're going to go out and look for ways to solve those problems or gain information on what they need to do about them. And this is an opportunity for us to enter into that space and give them information, but it has to be information that they actually want. And then finally, number four, we need to think about how can we engage and build relationships with our buyers that are not just sales relationships. Like how can we get everybody in the company, marketing and demand generation and revenue operations really becomes a team sport. How do we get everybody involved in extending those relationships beyond sales? Now, when we do this the right way, when we focus on helping those future buyers, when we focus on being a peer and not a peddler, we don't have to worry so much about the marketing qualified lead or getting people to raise their hand kind of in the middle of the journey, because what we're wanting to do is give them all the information that they could possibly need to help them make a good decision. And then when they're ready, what's going to happen is they're going to actually reach out to you and say, I'm ready. And quite frankly, those are the leads we want to pass on to sales anyways. What we don't want to do is go generate a bunch of marketing qualified leads by gating an ebook or something like that, and then giving those to our sales reps to waste their time on. What I'd rather see you do is focus on serving that future buyer and then making it super easy for that future buyer to understand what they need to do next. And we'll certainly unpack that as we go through the material today. So let's look at the buyer and really understand what is it that they want. So in a recent survey that I read, it was interesting. They said one of the first things that they're interested in when they're engaging with a potential company they want to do business with is they want really relevant information. You know, the article that I read was just kind of talked about how they feel like most of the content that they're consuming out there is very watered down or generic. They want information that's going to be relevant to their industry, to their company, to their role within the organization. So think about how can you create information that's highly relevant to the buyer. Number two, they want a personalized experience. And we're going to talk a lot about personalization today. But the key here is not that their name is showing up on an email, but rather that the information that they're consuming is tailored just for them. The next one down is they want everything on demand, right? They want to be able to get to all the stuff that you have whenever they want it. In fact, whenever we do these live events, I always get a lot of DMs and emails, people asking me, hey, I may not be able to make the live event. Will there be a replay? And the answer is 100%, right? Because we know that not every buyer wants to be here at this time. Maybe they've got a conflict. Maybe they just want to listen to it over the weekend. I don't know, but we need to make everything available to our customers on demand. And then finally, we need to make it super easy for them to access sales and have that be a frictionless experience when they're ready. Because remember, at some point in their journey, they're going to go, okay, I've locked in on this solution. Now I want to understand, how does this vendor solution fit in my unique environment? In fact, every B2B company I've ever talked to, they believe their situation is super unique. And that's something that we can use to our advantage, because at some point they're going to go, I get it. This is something that I need, that I think is going to help my business, but I really need to talk to somebody and understand, is this going to fit in my environment? And that's when we need to prioritize sales and get them involved. Now, a lot of this is going to happen on our website. And so one of the first resources I want to highlight today is this 2023 website UX checklist. You can grab that at that resource page that I talked about just a couple of minutes ago, vendidigital.com/go. You can grab, it's a great little checklist that'll help you just remove friction from your website and just think about how to message your website in a way that's going to be super buyer centric. Now, I know that today's webcast is really about what's working now, but I did want to poke fun a little bit on what's not working now. And so please bear with me as I walk you through some of the things that I'm seeing that just really aren't working now, and certainly weren't working last year. I don't think they're going to work in the future. The first one is all the pitch slapping that's going on. I don't know about you, but I cannot stand all the cold email that is just clogging up my inbox, and all the DMs that are clogging up my inbox today with unsolicited, hey, do you want to buy this thing? Are you interested in this thing? And you know what annoys me even more than that is when somebody sends me that unsolicited cold email, and then 2 or 3 days later, they send me a reminder to put it at the top of my inbox, as if that's not going to annoy me just 10 times more. So let's stop pitch slapping our prospects. Let's stop gating all of our content. The last thing in the world we want to do for today's modern buyer is to take our best content, put a form in front of it, and only let people that fill out the form see our very best content. When you think about it, that's pretty selfish, right? Where the reason why we gate things is we want to know who's who's wanting to consume this content. It's not about serving the buyer at all. It's about helping us. And in today's world, we really don't need that, right? With the right marketing stack, with the right information, and doing account-based marketing and demand generation the right way, we certainly don't want to do that. So what we'd rather do is get rid of that form altogether, take our best content, make it available to everyone, and even repurpose it and get it out there in the channels where our buyers go to learn. Another thing that we want to stop doing is going after only now buyers. I think that Harvard Business Review report that I shared with you at the top of the webcast really is driving that point home, right? We've got to be on that short list. We can't go after now buyers and make it to the short list. If we do that, we're only going to have a 1 in 10 chance of winning. Plus, that's where all of our competition is. It's so much better in today's world to go upstream, find those future buyers, understand what it is that they want and need, and then serve it up to them. And when they transition from that future buyer to a now buyer, guess what? They're going to think of you first and not your competition. I love this one. Thanks to Sherry Otto over at HubSpot. She shared this on LinkedIn, I think it was last week, and I loved it. And the lesson here is we don't want to make our prospects jump through all kinds of hoops once they're ready to say yes, right? We've got to prioritize the hand raisers and make it super simple for them to take the next step with us and then talk to the people that are going to help them understand how to apply your situation to their specific environment. And then finally, what we don't want to do is run lead gen ads to cold audiences. I don't know why this play is still being played out there in the world of B2B, but the last thing in the world we want to do is go to a cold audience. And when I say a cold audience, I mean, maybe it's somebody that you're targeting, but they don't know who you are. They don't know the problem that you solve. And the very first message they're getting from you is, hey, I want you to opt into this thing and become a lead. What we want to do with that top of the funnel or that cold audience is we want to use that as an opportunity to educate and inform our target audience on who we are, the problem we solve, the category that we are part of, and really kind of show that we are an authority and that we're experts. And then we want to use things like retargeting or intent data to really run ads middle of the funnel, and that's where we want to show and present offers. And I'll get more into that a little bit later on. But please, let's not run lead gen ads to cold audiences. That just doesn't work anymore. Okay, so let's define what ABM and Demand Gen mean. I bet if we went around to everybody that's listening in today, we'd probably get a different definition based on everybody that's here. So let's level set and just give you the one that we have, and it's simply this. aligning your business, your content, and actions to educate and engage targeted stakeholders. So remember, we've got a buying community here. It's not just one decision maker throughout the buying journey or buyer's journey. So let me say that again. Aligning your business, content, and actions to educate and engage targeted stakeholders throughout the entire buyer's journey. That's what we're trying to do with account-based marketing and demand generation. And so I'm going to unpack that for you by walking you through our framework. And this will take a couple of minutes, and I'm glad you've got the slides because it'll help you as you go back and look at this a little bit later on. But the first thing I want to do is just highlight that we're not thinking about ABM and Demand Gen as moving people through a funnel, but rather understanding the different stages that a buyer is going to go through. So you'll see here I've broken this framework down into 3 buyer stages. One is cold, meaning that they don't know who we exist or the problem that we solve, or they might be problem unaware. Maybe they know who we are, but they just don't know that they have the problem. So we're kind of lumping those two together. The next stage is problem aware. So they understand they have a problem and they're thinking about prioritizing getting that problem solved in their business. To the third stage is solution aware. They're actively looking at how to solve this problem in their business, and they're kind of narrowing in that you might be a good vendor. So those are the 3 stages. And when we build strategies and tactics, we're going to try to engage buyers at those different stages. So then as we move further down into the framework, what are we going to do to get their attention and to create momentum with them? Well, the first thing we want to do when they're unaware or they're cold to us is we want to drive zero-click content to them. And what I mean by that is give them information in the channels that they're spending time and have them be able to consume and understand and get value from that information without having to click over to your website. A huge part of what we're trying to do here is to actually build retargeting pools and create ways to measure and monitor signals that would tell us that they're moving through these different stages of unaware, problem aware, and then solution aware. And so once we start building this retargeting pool or we're starting to see signals from them because of our zero-click content that we're pushing out there, we can then start promoting a content hub. And what I mean by a content hub for right now is just simply relevant information that's going to help them along their journey. And so step 1 is let's get some zero-click information in front of them. Let's build a retargeting pool. Once they're in our retargeting pool, let's get them into some deeper content that may or may not be on our website. Because now we're starting to see that they're problem aware. And at that point, now that they're engaging with that second stage, let's give them our initial offer. Now, that's what we call offer 1. And guess what? Offer 1 isn't, hey, talk to a sales rep, right? Offer 1 is an opportunity to learn more and to go a little bit deeper. And so one of our favorites is events like this. And so that may be how you ended up in this event, is that we kind of worked you through this process. Now, the next level down is kind of what's going on from a marketing automation perspective. And so if you'll notice there on the bottom level, that third level to the left, our buyers are anonymous to us. We're doing account-based marketing, so we know the companies we're going after for sure, but we may not know the individuals that are in that buying committee yet. Like, we may know their titles, but we don't know who they are. And so what we're trying to do at this stage with zero-click content, et cetera, is really to warm up that account and get them to the point where we know who they are. And so there's lots of plays that we can do to accomplish that. I'll talk more about plays a little bit later on. But once we have that contact identified, then we can move into the next level, which is starting to personalize the information that we're getting in front of them. And so, obviously we're moving them through this journey of they don't know that we exist or the problem that we solve. Now they understand the problem that we solve. Now we know who they are, and so now let's give them a personalized experience, and let's leverage marketing and sales as a way to accomplish that with the right information, a little bit deeper information that's going to show them really how we can solve this problem for them. And what we're looking for at that point is what we call a surge. So you'll see kind of that third tier towards the right. As we're going through that process and we're cooperating with sales and marketing are doing a good job of cooperating and surrounding that account and also the buying committee within that account, what we're looking for is the surge. And the surge is now we're seeing a lot of people hitting our website, a lot of people consuming our content from a targeted account, and that's when we want to make offer 2. And offer two, again, every business is different. That may be, now I'm ready to ask them if they are ready to meet with a sales rep. It could just be to deeper level content. And that's really up to you to kind of figure out and to play and practice with. But the key point that I wanted to show is kind of what this process looks like. And then ultimately what that's going to do is drive that booked meeting. But here's the goal. We only want people to book a meeting that are ready to understand how your situation, or your solution rather, is going to fit in their situation. And so what we've done is we've created an opportunity for our buyers to kind of on demand consume information, learn on their own, have access absolutely to people that can help them, and then only ask them to take the meeting once we feel like they're surging and they're ready to take a meeting. Now, does this stuff work? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Well, if you're doing it the right way, 110% is it worth the squeeze. In fact, companies that engage in ABM and Demand Gen, their average contract value is 170% higher than companies that do not engage in ABM and Demand Gen. Their sales teams are 50% more effective. That means more meetings, more pipeline, more closed deals. And then I was just listening to a podcast, the Dave Gerhardt podcast, Exit 5 podcast, by the way, I love it. He had Hillary Carpio from Snowflake on the other day, or earlier this year, and she was saying that she manages ABM for them, that, you know, one of the things she looks at is how effective are their sales development reps on targeted accounts through ABM and Demand Gen versus non-targeted accounts. And they get 2 to 4 times more booked meetings when they've been warmed up through ABM and Demand Gen. So it absolutely, the juice is worth the squeeze. So I'm going to walk you through today basically 5 critical ingredients on how to do this. And the first one, that outer layer, if you will, is our marketing stack. Our marketing stack really serves as the glue that's going to make all this work together. But then we'll take a look at how do we pick the right accounts. One of the great things that ABM and Demand Gen do is it brings sales and marketing together and really focuses in on a certain set of accounts that they want to reach. Then we'll take a look at how do we personalize our content and create personalized experiences for our buyers. Then we'll jump into sales and marketing alignment and what do we need to do to get them fully aligned. And then finally, we'll take a look at how to run some good plays and how to make this stuff actually work to generate demand and opportunity for your business. Okay, so as we're talking about this concept, I just walked you through the framework and the key elements, if you will. Here's some pro tips I wanted to share with you. Number one, it's critical that we know our audience and who we want to target. And so when we're doing account-based marketing and demand gen, what we want to do is go after our best possible accounts, right? It's not anybody that can sign a check or sign a contract and pay us, but literally, who are the customers that we can absolutely serve the best? And that's going to be really important a little bit later on. Number two, we need to be easy to find. So once we figured out who we're going after, we don't want them all to have to come to our website to find out about us. We want to go where they're going to learn, and we want to give them bite-sized information that's going to help them in their journey in making a good decision. Number three, we need to be generous with our knowledge. So this is the opposite of gating content, right? We need to not only go where they are and spend time where they are and be easy to find, but we need to be seen as a generous brand, giving away a lot of great information. Number four, we need to have a plan for ongoing engagement. And what I mean by that is this is not a set it and forget it go-to-market strategy. This is really about building relationships with our targeted customers and having a way for them to stay engaged with us beyond just consuming our content or talking to an SDR rep, sales development rep, or an account executive. And then number five, this is a big one. A lot of companies are doing B2B or content marketing today, and that's great. But one of the things that I see they struggle with is they're coming up with all these great topics and they're writing information and thought leadership around these topics, but they forget to bake in the unique selling proposition of why you are a great solution to solve the problem. I'm not talking about a heavy sales pitch here. I'm just talking about weaving into the content your unique selling proposition and really helping buyers understand how you would go about solving this problem for them. And then the second half of that is giving them a plan forward. Remember, we can't control when that buyer is going to move from a future buyer to a now buyer. We can't control that, but we can make sure that we're communicating, hey, when you're ready to solve this problem, we've made it super easy for you. We've got a plan, an easy plan to follow that will help you solve this problem. That's what I mean by a plan forward. All of our content needs to have that woven in. Again, not a heavy sales pitch, but really just kind of constantly thinking about when this buyer is ready, how can we help them take the next step? And then finally, number 6, how do we prioritize hand raisers? How do we make it super easy for those hand raisers to take the next step with us? And so a big part of this is just surrounding their experience. So wherever our buyers are, wherever they're hanging out online, we want to be there too. And this is a sales and marketing cooperative effort. And so we want to make sure that both sales and marketing are sharing relevant content wherever these customers are. We also want to make sure that we're doing it multi-touch, that we're not just a one-trick pony, but we're out there and understanding what are the best channels for us to be in, and we're based on where our customers are hanging out, and let's make sure that we're there too, and let's touch them in multiple ways. Number 3, we want to have live events. So this is a live event that you're attending here. There's a lot of benefits to having live events. In fact, a bonus to that would be to have serialized live events. In fact, last year we doubled down on live events and we started doing a monthly live event at the same time each month, and we're super happy with that. Now, you don't have to start there. Maybe you just do a few webinars a year, like we do this type of webinar twice a year, but live events really help engage with your customers, share thought leadership, establish yourself as an authority, and there's a lot of downstream benefits too, like slicing this content up. I'll talk more about that a little bit later on. And then finally, we need to engage with them socially, and we need to try to get in community with them. And so this is how we want to surround our prospects so that we can remain top of mind, and when they are ready to buy, they think of you first. So let's talk about content marketing a little bit. Some of the key things that we want to remember when we're trying to drive relevant content that's going to get our buyers excited is, one, it's got to be very relatable to our audience. So remember, we talked about this a little bit earlier on, that a lot of buyers feel like the content that they're consuming is pretty watered down and pretty generic. And so how can we take our content and relate it to a particular industry or a role within the industry or a topic or a problem? Let's make it as relevant for our target audience as we can. It also needs to be remarkable. Think about that term remarkable for a second. Worthy of a remark, right? Remarkable. So we need, a big part of today's buying journey is a buying committee, and we want our buyers to share our content. Word of mouth is really important. And so if we create content with the mindset of, hey, I want this to be remarkable, I want it to be amazing, then you're going to have a much better shot of people sharing that content. Number 3, we need to normalize the idea of what you do. This kind of goes back to pointing to your unique selling proposition and giving them a plan forward. But the idea is that you want your content to show, hey, what you might be doing is the old way, Mr. Prospect or customer, but here's kind of the new way, and here's how people are doing it the new way, and it's working out better for them. That's what I mean by normalizing the idea of what you do. Number 4, we need to be able to build trust and authority. That's critical. And then number 5, this is a big one, right? Sales reps and SDRs are constantly looking for a reason to reach out to their customers. Give them something really great that gives them an opportunity to reach out to that customer on LinkedIn, or give them a call, or shoot them an email and say, hey, did you see this interesting study we just did? Have you checked out this interesting article? Or here's an on-demand webinar we just did that I thought you'd find interesting. So those are really key tenets, if you will, of building out an effective content marketing strategy. So really interesting study that Demand Gen report did earlier this year on B2B content preferences. And they basically said, hey, what kind of content are you most likely going to share within the buying committee? And so when we think about building content, makes sense that we'd probably want to think about, well, this is the kind of stuff they're looking to share. And it makes a lot of sense if you look at this list. They're looking for actionable insights. What are some things that are going to give them quick wins? Number 2, they want stats, facts, benchmarks. One thing that B2Bs love is to see how they're doing compared to other people in their industry. And it's hard to get to that information. So if you can share benchmarks and stats and facts like that, they love to share that within the buying committee. Number 3 is customer success stories, use cases. Help me understand how other people are using your product or service. And then number 4, there's that ungated term again, right? They don't want to fill out a form to get to your good stuff. Okay, let's switch gears. We're going to talk a little bit about the marketing stack. I don't have a ton on the stack today because there's we could spend a whole hour just talking about the marketing stack. But if you're going to do ABM and Demand Gen the right way, there really are 7 types of tools that you need. And there's certain vendors that mash these together, so I'm not going to go into that a whole lot today. But these are the 7 things you need to be able to do. You need to have a CRM. so that you can build connections, grow pipeline, measure pipeline, all that stuff. You need to have marketing automation to automate things, to personalize things. Number three, I'm sure there's people on here that understand number three, but there may be folks that haven't heard about this before. But visitor intelligence software gives you the ability to see what companies are coming to your website. If we're going to get rid of the MQL or depend less on the MQL, then we need to be able to understand what targeted companies are coming to our website, and visitor intelligence software will do that for you. Number four, we need intent data. There's lots of intent data out there, but that's going to just show us who's surging. Some of that we can gather on our own website. Some of that we can actually go out, and there's vendors that will tell you, hey, these companies are looking for your product or service. And so we want to have that intent data. Again, thinking back to our framework, that's going to help us towards the end. It's not the be-all, end-all. And one thing I just want to say about that is there's a lot of ABM companies out there. They're going to tell you that that is what ABM is. It's buying intent data and then running ads to people that are showing intent. And based on the framework I shared with you a few slides ago, that's not how you do ABM and demand gen. It's a part of a bigger picture, but that's only going to get you in front of now buyers. You've got to get in front of future buyers and now buyers. And so intent data is important, but it's not the only thing. Number five, content marketing. We need to be able to build content hubs and personalize content. I'll get more into that a little bit later on. Number six is analytics. Big changes happening in the world of analytics. Universal Analytics is about to go away. Google GA4 is going to be the soup du jour, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that, but be aware that your analytics world is about to change. And then finally, number seven, dashboards. So much of what we do today is not going to happen on your website. Your website's a critical hub to the process, but it's not everything. And so we need to have a way of looking at all of your digital footprint and what's going on with these targeted accounts, whether they're on social, on your website, checking your email, whatever the case may be. And so those are the 7 things that you really need to effectively run an ABM and demand gen program. Now, I will tell you that we are a HubSpot partner, and we're really big fans of HubSpot because many of the things that are on that previous slide you can absolutely do just right out of the box with HubSpot. So there's 4 things I wanted to highlight. One is with HubSpot, and I'm sure many of you guys are HubSpot customers already today, but they help you identify and grow accounts. So one thing that I absolutely love about HubSpot is it's great for target account marketing or account-based marketing because you can load up your logos, those targeted accounts you're going after, into HubSpot, even if you don't know who the contacts are, and they're going to monitor activities from those companies and actually help you run reports just to see, even when they're an anonymous visitor, that they're connected to this company, and that's really helpful. But they also have some great AI tools that once you load up your targeted accounts, they can actually go in and make recommendations, almost like a lookalike audience of other companies you might want to target. Another thing that we love about HubSpot is it's just great sales and marketing alignment. Both teams kind of working out of the same environment just makes it super easy to align and coordinate. The next one is content personalization. This is just great for any marketing automation platform that gives you the ability to create personalized experiences. I'll show you some examples here in a little bit of just what a personalized experience looks like. And then finally, just being able to manage plays and workflows so that when certain things happen, maybe a contact gets to a certain lead score, or maybe this happens on the sales side, that can fire off automations and let everybody know. So those are really big things. And, on that previous slide, I shared with you kind of 7 different things we need in our stack. And the great thing about HubSpot is they pretty much do all of those for you. Okay, so let's move on and talk about Universal Analytics. So Google Universal Analytics is going away in 51 days. 51 days. And when I say going away, it is going away. Like, it's not going to be around anymore. Your data is going to be gone. All of that's changing. The way that you measure conversions, all of that's changing. And what's going to replace it is GA4. Now, I'm sure you've heard about GA4, and many people think that it's just the next evolution of universal analytics, and it's absolutely not that. It's a whole new product. In fact, they went and bought a company and built GA4 on top of it, and that's going to create a lot of headaches for you. That's why we've built this migration guide for B2B marketers. I wanted to have it available to you today and put it on that resource page, but it's not quite done yet. So I appreciate you guys attending, but we'll email it to you absolutely free of charge as soon as it's ready. It should be ready in the next couple of days. Okay, so let's move on and just talk about these key areas. We've been talking about the stack, and now what we're going to do is just work and discuss, how do we pick the right accounts? And there's some pro tips here I wanted to share with you. Number one, we need to start with our ideal customer. We kind of talked about that. Then we want to create tiers so that we've got this big account list, and most people will break them into 3 tiers: Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. Tier 1 really needs to be about priority and signals. And what I mean by priority is maybe your sales team knows that this particular company is with a competitor and their contract expires in 6 months or a year. And so there's somebody that you want to prioritize right now. That would be an example of maybe a Tier 1. Or maybe there's some signals that are showing that they're surging. Or maybe there's some opportunities that you want to go out and capitalize on. I'll show you some examples in a second. Number 3, from a pro tip perspective, what we found works best: let marketing generate the list and then let sales pick from the list. It's kind of like the blank sheet, right? If you go to sales and say, hey, what accounts do you want to target? They're going to look at you and not give you a good answer. But if you do the research beforehand, give them a list of 1,000 accounts or whatever and say, hey, these are the folks we think we should go after. Let them pick. It works a lot better. Number 4, find gaps and opportunities. So what are some additional research that you can do that's going to point you in a direction that says, yeah, these guys are good targets for us? I've got a good example I'll show you in just a second. And then number 5, again, this is every business is going to be different, but what we like to do is update that list every quarter. And yes, absolutely, some companies are going to make it from list to list to list to list. But just to kind of go through that rigor once a quarter and re-rack and stack the folks based on tiers, I think is a really good idea. I don't have a lot of time to go through tiers today, but I just wanted to give you a couple of things to think about. It's good to kind of break your target accounts into 3 buckets. The bucket at the top is always the one that's going to get the most personalization and the most touching by your account executives. And so that needs to be a highly personalized environment where you've got the greatest opportunity to close business in the near term. Tier 2 would be something that's handled more by the sales development rep, where there's going to be more marketing cycles involved, and you may not be personalizing one-on-one for the account, but you might create personalized content about roles, about industry sectors and things like that. And then everything else would lump into that 3rd bucket, and really demand generation and getting your content out there is what you're going to be doing for that 3rd tier. So I talked about gaps and opportunities as one of the pro tips. I just wanted to give you a couple of quick examples here. One of the things that we do, so obviously we like to work with B2B companies in certain industry sectors. And so when we come up with a target account list, what we do is we get a couple of interns and we have them go look up those target accounts on LinkedIn, which is the example here on the left, to see if they're advertising on LinkedIn. Because if they're one of our target accounts and they're not advertising on LinkedIn, then that's an opportunity. That's somebody that we want to Tier 1 target more than likely. And so that's a way of us using research to try to identify who might be Tier 1 versus Tier 2. And then over here on the right is just another way that we might use research to help us tier accounts. And so obviously we love it when there's a CMO change because oftentimes that means they're going to be looking for new agencies. And so if somebody is on our target account list and they have a new CMO, that might be a top tier account for us. So those are just a couple of examples. When you're using marketing automation, you can actually tier things using automation as well. So with HubSpot, one of the things that I love about their software is you can actually create rules around tiers. And so as companies come in and engage with your content or maybe opt in for something or register for a webcast like this, if they meet a certain profile, then you can automatically have HubSpot put that account in a particular tier based on the criteria that you set. And if you know the industry that they're in, that could even fire off a sequence where they start getting drip emails around that particular industry. They can send alerts to sales or for sales or sales development reps. So those are great examples of how you can actually use technology to help you tier things. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I just wanted to show you how Visitor ID software works. There's a couple of free tools out there that you can get today. The first one is LinkedIn Insight Tool. So I don't know if you know this, but you can actually install a piece of code on your website from LinkedIn, and it will reveal to you all the companies that are visiting your website, regardless of whether or not they came to you from LinkedIn. And it's absolutely free of charge. So that's the Insight tag. Definitely would look at doing that. HubSpot has a free tool as well. It's called the prospecting tool. You don't have to have a paid account over at HubSpot to take advantage of it. You just install the code on your site, and just like LinkedIn, it'll give you and reveal to you all the different companies that are coming to your website. Over on the far right, there's some paid options here for you too. They have a little bit more bells and whistles. So if you're wanting to do more, you can certainly do that. But if you're not doing Visitor ID software today, maybe start with LinkedIn and the HubSpot prospecting tool. That'd be a good place to start. Okay, so let's talk about personalization. And, when most people think about personalization, the first thing they think about, I believe, is, putting your name in an email or putting your name on a landing page or something like that. And there's certainly that piece to it. But in today's world, just seeing your name without relevance, I don't think really matters that much. And so I want to redefine what personalization means, or at least give you the definition that we have at Vindy Digital. And it's right there on the bottom half of the slide. We want to make them feel, meaning the person that we're personalizing to, feel like the information was made just for them and just what they needed. So if we can do that, we don't need to personalize it that much in terms of their name, but as long as the content that they're consuming and the messages that we're sending their way feel like it's just what they need, and it was made exactly for them, then we've done a good job with personalization. Here's some quick tips for you. Number one, personalization plus relevance, as I just mentioned, is really important. We also want to put lipstick on a princess, not put lipstick on a pig. And what I mean by that is, if you're going to start doing personalization, go find your best content and think about, how can I personalize my best content? Start there. And then some places that we want to really enhance personalization would be our landing pages, content hubs. I'll show you an example of that in a second. And then ultimately, I think community is the greatest place for us to do personalization. Now, when we're doing personalization, oftentimes people think about personas, and I want to just warn you about personas. Now, I know King Charles was just coronated this past weekend, so I'm poking a little fun at him here, but we don't want to make personas based on assumptions, because we can end up having some assumptions that really aren't driving the right message to the right buyer, but rather, let's focus on the problems that we can solve and the problems that our personas are having and how they can solve those problems. That's going to work a lot better. Now, we do have a good resource for you here. The best place for you to understand what matters to your customer is to actually, believe it or not, ask customers. And so we've got this great resource that you can download on some great questions that you can ask customers to get very helpful, useful insights. Okay, so another study that I wanted to share with you, they went to buyers and just basically said, tell us about the content that you want to consume from a vendor. And you can see here, this is a great laundry list. So when we think about personalization, go look for content or create content around an issue or a pain that they're having, industry vertical, around a topic, their role or function. These are all things and great opportunities for you to go and think about, okay, how can I personalize this? How can I make it super relevant for them? Now, there's a lot of talk about AI today, and is AI going to replace B2B marketers or marketers in general? And I would tell you that I think AI is not a great replacement for B2B marketers, but it might be a really good intern. And the reason I'm promoting this particular resource here, which is a great little guide that's just keeping you up to date on integrations and prompts and things like that to help you do your job better, is when we're thinking about personalization and we want to put lipstick on a princess, maybe you go find that great content on your website and then use AI to help you verticalize it or help you build it around a particular role or segment. But be sure to check out this guide. It'll help you in a lot of other areas than just personalization. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of examples here on how to personalize. So many of you that are watching today, I'm sure came through this landing page on our website. And so here's some basics when it comes to personalizing landing pages. Number one, the topic's got to be relevant. If we created a topic about basket weaving and promoted that, I'm guessing not many of you would have filled out the form. So we've got to have a relevant topic. And then obviously we want to personalize it as best we can with what we know. And so on our landing page, we had your name, we had your company name there. And then we also use progressive forms. And so if we already had you in our database and you landed on our landing page, all your data was already pre-filled for you. You literally just had to click a button to register. So those are examples of personalization. Now, content hubs, really, when you think about a content hub, what we are talking about is a curated content experience for that user based on what you know about that user. So here's a couple of examples. On the left is actually the resource page you hear me keep talking about during this webcast. And you can see how we've created this content hub just for you that's personalized. You'll see your name when you land on it. It's got a relevant offer because, hey, you're here listening to me talk about ABM and Demand Gen. And if you want to apply this specifically to your business, you can click that button. So it's highly relevant. And then it's got curated content at the bottom. And so that's really what needs to be in a content hub. Now, the one on the right is how we've organized our content on our website around various topics. And so when we have a customer that's interested in a particular topic, or maybe because we have a content hub and they go to that hub, like this one here is our demand generation content hub, now we know they're interested in demand generation. That could fire off some email sequences, or we can alert an SDR so that they can reach out and talk about demand generation because we know that's what they're interested in. So those are just some examples of personalization. Here's a personalization fail, and I've ran it on this a couple of times, but obviously this is a cold email that has my name on it. So it is personalized, but it is awful, right? It's just wasting my time and clogging up my inbox, something I'm certainly not excited about at all. So we don't want to do that. Email marketing is still a wonderful channel. So what's a better example? To me, a better example is think about your streaming service provider and how they send you emails every week based on the content that you're consuming on their platform. They're curating articles, or not articles, but other types of content that you may enjoy. And I would encourage all of us that are listening today that want to enhance our personalization experiences for our customers. Let's go think about this, what I call the Hulu method, and how can we deliver content based on what we know they're doing on our website or content that they're engaging with us in other places to email them curated content that's really going to help them and educate and inform them. Okay, so the last piece of personalization here is really community. And, I really believe community is the ultimate form of personalization. This is where you in the marketing department and sales have the opportunity to actually engage with customers and build relationships with them, learn about their challenges, figure out ways to solve those challenges, and then feed it back to them. It really is, as the marketing qualified lead is going away, I feel like community is one of the best ways to engage customers in the middle of the funnel. In fact, we have a community, and a big shout out for all the Demand Gen Jammers that are watching today. I'm sure several of you are there, and we certainly appreciate you guys. But if you're not part of our community, I would love for you to join us. And what we have is a community on LinkedIn, and then once a month, we also do a live event just for the community. And next month in June, we're going to do, it's all going to be 100% on GA4. Talked about why that's really important. So if you're interested, just hit me up and I'll show you how to get involved in our community. We'd love for you to join our community. Okay, so now we've kind of ready to move into sales and marketing alignment, which is the next ingredient. And the goal here, when we think about how do we bring these two departments together that have been like, water and oil forever, is to seamlessly support the buyer journey. That's what we ultimately are all about. We're about scoring touchdowns, not generating MQLs. And so we want to do that from the very first impression to actually closing the deal. And so success should not be about MQL production at all, or vanity metrics, but really how are we setting qualified meetings for the sales team ultimately that are going to ultimately turn into pipeline or revenue. That's what it's got to be all about. So an analogy I like to use when we're talking about sales and marketing alignment is marketing is the, deep sea fishing analogy. Marketing is chumming up the water, bringing in the fish that you're going after, and then sales can throw in their lures, reel in the big fish, take all the credit, whatever the case may be. We're all on the same team, right? But that's what we're trying to do, is work together to accomplish one goal. Now, I'm going to share this slide with you pretty fast, but one of the challenges that we have in the world of B2B is not aligning well. And what that ends up doing is wasting a lot of time, energy, and effort. In fact, what this slide is showing us is, this is an unbelievable statistic, that 90% of the assets created by marketing for sales are never used by sales. 90%. And conversely, the bottom half of this slide is basically saying, sales, because they're not using your marketing assets, they spend 30 hours a month, almost a week a month, creating their own assets that they send out to customers. And not only is that a big waste of time, but that's kind of scary when you think about it as well. When we think about the friction that's going on between sales and marketing, there's friction on both sides of the fence. Marketing feels like, and again, I'm kind of poking fun of King Charles here, but marketing's like, man, we went through all this energy and effort to get somebody to fill out a form, and then nobody ever follows up with them. It's 100 years later before anybody ever reaches out to our customer, and we spent all this work to get them to fill out a form. That's how marketing feels about sales, right? But on the marketing side, or on sales side rather, they're frustrated because they're like, hey, you got a gated ebook. Somebody raised their hand because they wanted to get your ebook, and you're feeding that to me like it's a qualified lead, and all they want to do is get our ebook. They have no interest in what we're selling, and now I'm just wasting all my time, energy, and effort on people that don't want to buy anything from us. And so those are the frustration points, and the way we solve for that is real simple. If you want to get sales and marketing aligned, then basically focus on now buyers. And what I mean by that is, obviously, we're doing everything we can to nurture relationships until this point, but really optimize and prioritize people that are ready to talk to sales and make that super easy. So if every lead that marketing passed on to sales was a highly qualified prospect that was ready to talk, then I think that would be the end of any sales and marketing alignment challenges that you've ever had. Remember, buyers don't buy the best solutions. You may not be aware of that, but at the end of the day, you may have the best solution and buyers aren't buying from you. But what they do buy, it's not always the best solution, but what they do buy are solutions they understand from people that they trust. And do you see how sales and marketing works together there? Products and solutions they understand, that's really marketing's job, to help people understand that. And then from people that they trust, that's really the sales side. So in order to make this work, it really requires both sides of the equation. So in order to do that, we've got to collaborate better. We've got to share account lists. You can see how ABM and Demand Gen are really helping us along the way. We need to define roles and ownership of things. We need to provide personalized messaging for the sales rep as well as on landing pages and things like we've talked about. And we need synchronized playbooks. And I just noticed we're kind of getting short on time, so I'm going to move a little bit faster here. I always do that and apologize for that because I go on too many tangents, if you will. But I want to hit a couple of things as we move along here. When we think about the three different roles, we've got the marketing role, and their job is really to make people aware of the problems that we solve and really help them understand why they need to change. The SDR's role really is to qualify accounts, understand, when are they going to be ready to buy? Maybe they're in a contract with another vendor right now. Really kind of understanding that, being an information concierge, sharing information that's going to help that customer stay informed. And then ultimately, the account executive's job is to really help them gain consensus and understand how your solution is going to live in their world. Okay, so we're going to wrap up or get close to wrapping up. And we're going to cover this, and then we'll go right into the Q&A section. But let's talk about how do we run some plays? What are some things that we can do now that we understand all of this? What are some actual plays that we can do and run with sales and marketing together and a target account list to actually get some positive results for our business in 2023? The first thing I just want to share with you is there really are no cookie cutters. I'm going to walk you through some plays and things that we do. But don't take these and try to run them on your own. Go apply them to your business. Schedule a planning meeting with me. We can talk through how to apply that if you want. But when we think about running plays, one of the first things we want to do is just understand what is going to take a buyer to go from a future buyer to a now buyer, and let's make sure our plays are accomplishing that. And so here's just a list of things that buyers are going to want to do before they're ready to talk to your sales reps. So when you're building out your plays, let's make sure we're doing that, okay? So some pro tips in building out plays. Number one, and we've talked about this a couple of times, but we want to repurpose content that's already working well. So when you're thinking about, hey, I want to run a play, I want to see if this stuff works, go look at your Google Analytics and go look at your data and see what content do people like the most, and think about, well, how can I use that and leverage that in one of my plays? And then from there, we want to just add ABM and Demand Gen to what's working. Another tip would be to take your best content, we're talking about content here, and just breaking it up. That's what I mean by a content flywheel. Take that great content, slice it up, get it out there. How can you get it out there where customers can go and consume it? And how can you use ABM and Demand Gen and plays to accomplish that? So there's some key questions here that we want to think about when we're getting ready to build out a play. Number one is, who are we trying to reach? Number two is, what content will we need to get their attention? Number three, what do we want them to do next? That's really important. So now that we've got their attention, how do we take them to the next level and create momentum with them? And then the fourth step really is, who's going to own each of the steps of the process? Another resource for you, we've got a 14-point checklist that you can download off our website, that resource page that I've been telling you about, vendidigital.com/go, and download this 14-step playbook. It'll help you, give you way more information than I can cover with you today. Okay, so let's take a look real quick at what this process might look like. So this is just a standard ABM Demand Gen play that's integrating sales and marketing together. So the first thing we want to do, once we've figured out who our customer is we want to run a warm-up campaign where we're focusing on sharing that zero-click content and building out our retargeting pool. And the focus there is answering the question, what do we want them to know about our category? What do we want them to know about our company or the product or service that we provide? And we want to do that a couple of weeks before we get sales involved. So we're warming up this list of targeted accounts. And then sales can begin their outreach. And what we want them to do is be multi-channel. We want them to touch them in all the different channels where we think those customers are hanging out, from sending connection requests in LinkedIn to DMing in LinkedIn, sending emails, all those types of things, being active in their communities. All of that needs to happen in this sales outreach cadence. And then from there, we move into the multi-funnel, multi-channel, where from a marketing side, our focus is primarily promoting retarget or using retargeting and intent data to really drive, which are those triggers. That's what I mean by triggers, what they see next. And something I really wanted to make a point on this particular slide, you'll see under triggers right there, 50-50 content and offers. That's really, really important at this stage. So at the top of the funnel, when we're warming up, we're trying to build a retargeting pool. In the middle of the funnel, as much as we want to give them offer, let's give them 50% offers and 50% useful content. We found that that's a really good mix. And then what will happen is, going back to that framework I shared at the very beginning of the presentation, is that some of them are going to raise their hand and want to talk to sales because they're ready. And so we need to have a great handoff and only hand off to sales those highly qualified customers. And then everybody else is just going to follow into a nurture cadence, and we'll continue to warm them up until they're ready to talk to sales. For lack of time, I'm not going to cover these next slides in too much detail, but I've got some slides here. Take a look at them. You can download them. They really just show the importance of A/B testing and what kinds of things you need to be doing in terms of creating ads that are going to be really helpful for your customers or really helpful for your marketing efforts. One thing about this slide here, just when you think about top of the funnel, I do want to make this point, even though that we've gone over just a little bit, is we found that video assets in the top of the funnel and that warm-up layer really work great, because our goal is to generate a retargeting pool and retarget those folks in the middle and lower funnels. And so we can get much better engagement on video, especially on LinkedIn, than we can with static images. So think about ways that you can repurpose video content that you've had, a great example is this webcast. We'll be definitely slicing this webcast up and then turning it into micro-sized video content that will become some of our top of the funnel content in the future. So just keep that in mind. And man, I went on way too many side roads. I apologize. I really was looking forward to sharing this event promotion play with you. This play right here is exactly why you're here. So we ran through this playbook to get you to attend today, and I'm not going to have time to walk you through it because we're running out of time. But if you do want to go over this, just schedule a planning meeting with me, and I'll be happy to walk you through this process. It worked great. We had over 300 people attend or register for today's event. So one of our favorite things to do in that offer one phase of our framework is to use events as a way to engage with our target customers. So feel free to download this. This is right on those slides, and I'm happy to walk you through it one-on-one if you want. Okay, last resource of the day, and then we can move on to questions. And that is, we've got this great little 2023 digital strategy planning guide that will walk you through the types of content that work at the different buyer stages, if you will, and some tips on running paid ads in way more detail. The next thing I wanted to share right before we get to questions is just running a pilot campaign. You may be thinking, well, how can I get started with this? Running a pilot campaign is a great way to do it. And so you can see there on the right, I just walked you through kind of what a standard ABM demand gen play might look like. The only difference to that and running a pilot would be it's got a specific time frame. And I would recommend running a pilot campaign for about 6 months. I don't think you could run it for any less than that. And just to go through these steps with the goal at the bottom to see if, hey, we ran this pilot campaign against these targeted accounts. Did we get more appointments with them? Did those translate into more opportunity? That would be a great way for you to get started. So you don't have to stop doing what you're doing today. If it's working for you or you're afraid to turn it off, a good next step might be just to do a pilot campaign, and you can follow these steps. Again, I'm happy to talk to you about it if we do a planning meeting. Okay. That was a fire hose. I know it. I kind of warned you at the beginning, didn't I? I said I was going to fire hose you today. But I just kind of walked you through this entire framework and how to use it to generate more leads and opportunities in 2023. And if you are interested, let's get a planning session on the books. I do have 10 slots available for the week of May 22nd when I get back from vacation. I'll be a lot tanner than I am right now and really ready to sit down and talk to you about your business and how you can apply these concepts to your business. It is absolutely free of charge. There won't be a sales pitch. There's no hooks, no nothing. I just want to help you apply what I've taught you today, specifically to your situation. If you're not one of the first 10, don't worry about it. We'll figure out how to get you worked in. It may not be that week, but it could be a subsequent week. So, okay, it's 12:36. I was actually hoping to get to this point about 10 minutes ago, so we'll do the best we can. Thank you for everyone that's still hanging with me. I am going to bounce over to your questions here in just a minute, but I had a handful of questions that you guys sent to me before, and I just wanted to make sure I covered those, and so I'm going to do that. So the first question here is, what is the best no-tech or low-tech ABM approach? I thought that was really interesting. And so what I would do is, obviously, you got to have some marketing stack to help you, so you got to have some tech. But I kind of touched on this a little bit already. Go look at your best performing content that you've got out there, and then ask yourself, how can I personalize this? How can I make it about a particular industry? How can I really tailor this to a target audience? And then go run some plays where you're promoting that piece of content using LinkedIn ads or something like that to a target audience, and you've got your SDRs following up with those same folks and sharing that content maybe as a DM or via email to your target audience. So that would be a good, easy, low-tech way. If you don't want to run a full pilot, you could certainly try that. Okay, question number 2. What is the role of paid ads in small to medium-sized B2B companies? Man, I'm telling you, to make ABM and Demand Gen work, whether you're a giant company or a small company, you're going to have to spend some money on ads. And I think the best ad budget or advertising channel right now for this is actually LinkedIn. Now, I would maybe start with retargeting ads, believe it or not. So get the retargeting pixel on your website and then run retargeting ads on LinkedIn with a piece of content if you've got a really small budget. That would be an easy way to get started. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but if you put the retargeting pixel on your website, you can retarget all of the traffic on LinkedIn and not just traffic that came to your website from LinkedIn. So it's a great way of extending everything else that you're doing on that channel. Another great thing about LinkedIn is you can overlay your target account list. So people that come to your website that are now on LinkedIn that are also on your target account list are the ones that would see the ad. So it's really an effective way of getting your content distributed to those target accounts. Okay, question number 3. How do you measure the performance of your ABM efforts? I kind of touched on this already. There's a lot of ways that you can measure performance, but ultimately I would do an A/B test. These are the accounts that we're focused on from an account-based marketing perspective, and these are the ones that we aren't focused on. And what's happening in terms of meeting set, pipeline, contract value, those are ultimately the KPIs that I would focus on. Now, there are a lot of leading indicators as well that I don't have time to go into today, but if you're interested in how to do this, let's schedule a planning meeting. Happy to walk you through that. Next question, when is ABM a bad idea? Well, I would tell you in most cases it's a good idea. Probably the time it is not a bad idea, or not a good idea rather, and is a bad idea is if your average customer value is low, or you have some kind of a freemium product without a high ticket on the back end. So maybe your product-led growth and your primary offering is less than $2,000 or $3,000 or $10,000. Probably ABM might not be the right fit for you. But if you've got a sales force and you're focused on getting appointments and having demos, then ABM is a great fit for just about any business. Intent data. Do you believe in it? If so, what's the most effective kind? So I touched on intent data, and probably this is why I went a little bit long, because I kind of hit on this a little bit earlier. But intent data is great for showing the surge. So if you remember, I'm just going to back up a little bit here. Let me go to that slide. It's right here. So you see surge right here. Intent data is a way for you to see if a customer is surging or not. There's a lot of ways to see that, but intent data is a great way to see that. But it's not the be-all, end-all to account-based marketing. It's just telling you that this customer may be ready to receive an offer. But we did talk about at the very beginning that you've got to be on that short list before they get to the surge. If you're not on that short list, it doesn't matter. You could spend all the money in the world. You still only have a 1 in 10 chance of winning the business. So yes, I love intent data. It's very useful to show that a customer is surging, but it's not the be-all, end-all to account-based marketing. So watch out for vendors that are telling you that's what ABM is, because it's absolutely not what it is. Okay, so I've gone through the questions that you guys submitted earlier, and what I'm going to do now is just bounce out to, if I do this the right way, I should be able to bounce out and actually see any customers that or any questions that might have popped up here. And so I'm going to go down here, and Andrea, if you want, you can just throw some out. It looks like you possibly have, which is great. Thank you. So one question is, what is your opinion of using company names to target LinkedIn advertising in addition to retargeting? Yeah, that's a great question. So let me just emphasize, when we look at the plays that we're running, when we're in that warm-up phase, we really are targeting based on a target account list, which could just be the name of the company that we've identified based on some firmographic data or industry-related data. So you've got, let's say, 1,000 accounts, and I'm just picking that number randomly. At the top of the funnel, when we're doing the warm-up campaigns, we don't know who the individuals are. And so what our focus really is to focus our advertising to promote that, answering the question, what do we want them to know? And we're targeting roles within those targeted accounts until we know who they are. So hopefully that helps. And then I'm just looking here. It looks like we've got all the questions answered, which is great. And again, if you're still here, about 12 minutes longer than I expected to go, I certainly appreciate you hanging with us. Please go and schedule a one-on-one with me so that we can apply some of these concepts specifically to your business. Thank you so much for your time. I hope this was helpful and would love for you to join our community on LinkedIn, the Demand Gen Jammers community. Reach out to us if you'd like to be a part of that. Until next time, you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone. Take care.